everyone. It's great to be here today. So I work at Coretta Research, where we're tracking the media tech industry as well as the sports rights industry in terms of all the different players, the relationships, and what that means from a tech standpoint. So last year at FutureSPORT, we talked about how online viewing is giving more vendors the opportunity to kind of go into sports. We're looking at how budget pressures mean that tech has to either make money or save money. And thirdly, we talked about how experimental trends really need to pay their way. What do we think today, and how has that shifted from last time? So firstly, streaming has not saved broadcasters despite a lot of investment into it. Secondly, broadcasters' last stronghold of live production is also under attack. And thirdly, tech really needs to be able to, sorry guys, I'm a bit blind. Tech really needs to be able to, thank you. Tech must drive engagement and protect experiences. So, streaming has not saved broadcasters. What we've seen over the past year and what we predict going forward is that revenue is all coming from streaming. So what we've seen over the past few years is broadcast really flatlining. But secondly, we're seeing streaming on an upward tick. And we really saw that point of convergence kind of 2023 to 2024, and it's only going to continue up from there. What's interesting about this is not only that revenue growth is coming from streaming, but more so that streaming growth is not coming from broadcasters. If we look at the top revenue coming from streaming, we see that that's primarily coming from major streamers. And that's growth that's kind of set to continue on that path as well. So it really does push broadcasters to see what they need to do to continue generating kind of interesting content and keeping that engagement on them. Secondly, broadcasters are investing in live over streaming. Now, this makes a lot of sense, and we've definitely seen the kind of flatlining of investment into OVP technology, CMS, whereas we're seeing an increased investment into live production. Now, this is broadcasters' biggest advantage, so that does make a lot of sense. And it also makes a lot of sense because that's what we're seeing is driving, thank you, traditional content creation the most. I'm going to move over here, apologies. So we're seeing this is what's kind of really driving that traditional content creation. Now, what does that mean? Because broadcasters' last stronghold, live content, is also under attack. We've been kind of sizing the rights landscape, and what we've looked at is that Europe and the US have the biggest rights spends, and that's not a massive shock. Asia's pretty close behind, followed by the Middle East, APAC, LATAM, and that growth is, once again, something that we expect to continue in a similar trajectory. What we're also seeing is that UK is Europe's biggest buyer of rights deals by deal value, as opposed to by number of deals. So we're really seeing specific regions prioritizing their investment into rights. Arguably, we can say the UK likes football a lot, but this growth over time is really going to drive what happens within the market. Now, it's not only broadcasters that are buying rights. So what we're seeing is that premium live rights are moving towards streaming as well. So this graph, I know there's a lot going on with it, but if we look in the different sections, what we can see is that public and commercial broadcasters have historically and continue to hold the biggest percentage of rights, followed by broadcasters, pay TV operators. But what we're seeing in terms of the CAGRs is that streaming providers are what's growing the most in terms of their investment in rights. And we're seeing that growth at a pretty stable percentage, which does put a lot of pressure on those broadcasters who are very much relying on rights for one of their kind of major streams of income. Seeing as streaming hasn't saved them, they've been kind of turning to that live content. So the question is, what is there to do from here? And what does it mean? Is it only kind of the major streamers investing in rights? And the answer to that is no. We know that the big streamers have purchased rights deals. We know the Apples have. We know the Netflixes have. We know the YouTubes have. But what's super interesting over the past period is that smaller organizations are also investing in rights and creating new experiences with them. So you've got Kaze TV, who's bought kind of different rights for the World Cup, different Premier League rights, as well as rugby rights for Egg Chasers. And generally, we're seeing this big shift towards it not only being content that's there for tier ones, but all the way down to the lower tiers as well. And that's really changing the way in which, firstly, rights are monetized, but secondly, the way in which rights are consumed. And that lines up very well with how we're seeing younger generations consuming content, in that they want different experiences. They want more from the way that they consume content. They want to have multiple things going on the screen at the same time. They want to have stats coming up. They want to be able to engage with it more actively. And it's just a very different way than watching a linear television stream. And I think that's something that's going to be super important in terms of maintaining that competitive edge as we move into the next kind of stages. So what's most important is that tech really needs to drive engagement and protect experiences. And investing in the right tech is really what's going to keep people kind of busy. It's what's going to keep people investing in the right thing, and it's going to keep viewership on the right rights. So this is a graph where we're looking at lots of technology that really allows fans to engage more. And if we go through each of these different parts of it, what we can see is how this technology is growing because of the impact it has on the rights. So starting from the top, if we look at the sports data tools and the fan engagement, we see this is growing the most because of the fact that they allow people to have additional experiences when watching sports. The same goes for live graphics and live sports graphics. Anything that can pull in different audiences by adding to their experiences is really, really powerful. And it's what's going to help people the most when it comes to keeping those views on their content. Secondly, you've got all of the highlights, clipping, and reversioning is a really big one to point out. Now, the reason that's important is because if you've got a live match and you haven't got the tools to clip, reversion, change your content into a different format, you're going to be missing out on viewers and pulling viewers into the longer form content. That was exactly something that was mentioned in this morning's session that YouTube did, where they discussed the fact that younger viewers go onto these short form websites in order to see content that they might want to watch down the line. And that's definitely a trend that we're seeing more and more. So broadcasters having the ability to clip their live content and have it up within a minute of the goal being scored, for example, is absolutely crucial to getting that audience, to drawing them in, and to continuing to have that growth. And the same goes for having kind of MAM systems, content management systems, anything that allows you to do the most with the content that you have and to kind of make the most of anything that you have available to you is what's really going to support that growth of the content, but also the growth of your viewership, the growth of the fan base, and ultimately allow you to further monetize that fan base. On top of traditional ways of viewing through linear streaming, we're also seeing a lot of growing interest in enhanced premises, as well as AR and VR. So if we think about enhanced premises for a bit, the benefit is that you already have the audience in the right place. So then it comes to what more can you do with that space? And it's all about the convergence of a crowd, a place, and content. So when you have everyone in a stadium, any activations that you can add on top of the stadium experience really, really will support bringing them more into the experience. And ultimately, live sports, what it gives you is that opportunity to connect, to engage, and to experience something that's happening, once live that you're in the moment they're enjoying. So these live experiences and enhanced premises are what really push that forward and support this very, very competitive ecosystem in terms of giving you an opportunity to create an experience that will allow you to stand out. And then finally, what we're really seeing is how rights holders need to prioritize league partnerships. Now, we've seen a lot of examples of this, but essentially, when it comes to direct-to-fan, leagues and clubs have been doing a lot of that themselves, but rights holders, whether that be the broadcasters to stay competitive, or the streamers, also need to start doing a bit more with their content in order to get different types of viewers. And there's a few ways in which you've seen this happening. So one of them could be through creating partnerships that give you different experiences, and specifically that really give you alternative formats. So some examples of this that we've seen previously has been the NFL and Nickelodeon had a partnership where they created a format for the games that was specifically for a younger audience. It took Nickelodeon's kind of traditional sliming content that they've been doing for years and years that really appeals to the children, and they put that on top of the games, bringing in this whole new audience and effectively creating the NFL fans of the future. The second thing that we've seen that was really interesting in terms of alternative formats was the Media Pro, La Liga, and TikTok partnership. Now, what happened there was they streamed the first ever full game on TikTok. live broadcast, and they had commentary, they had different TikTokers taking part in it. This was really, really interesting in terms of how it did offer people the chance to watch full-form content within TikTok. Once again, pulled in those viewers. And what's an interesting trend that we're seeing is younger generations do want to watch content on bigger screens when it's the right content. So just having that moment of engaging them, pulling them in through TikTok, so that ultimately they will also be able to watch it on the big screen was really powerful. And that partnership has continued, and it's set to continue for this year as well between TikTok and La Liga, because it's been really powerful in bringing in the right audiences. The second thing that we're seeing, which has been very effective, is co-branded platforms, like the one between FIFA and DAZN, the FIFA Plus website. This gives you opportunity to watch live games, great, but on top of the live content, you've also got player interviews, you've got behind-the-scenes training footage, you've got access to interviews, and all of this, once again, means that those fans that really just want to know who the players are, they want to get into that game more and more, can do so. And technology that supports kind of the creation of these different platforms, or at least these partnerships, and those partnerships equally could be with broadcasters if they expand their content outside of just the live, can also be super powerful. And then finally, we've got the behind-the-scenes content itself. And we've seen a few of these documentaries already come out on Netflix. So we had the Wrexham documentary, we had the Formula One documentary on Netflix. Both of these are great ways of showing what happens off the pitch, what happens for the players, what their training looks like, what their life looks like, what the building of a team looks like, and once again, just brings those fans back in. Ultimately, having the right content and the most powerful content is what's going to keep you afloat, and then you can supplement that by investing in the right technology as well. So, there's a few different things you can do, and it's not all negative, even though there is definitely a lot of competition and a lot of pressures happening. But the key things that I would say we need to prioritize for the year ahead are, firstly, streaming is leading revenue growth, and live content rights spend is increasingly competitive, which is something I think we are aware of and already know. Secondly, rights holders really must invest in technology that's going to support the production of engaging content and unique experiences. And finally, greater emphasis is needed on partnerships that enhance viewing experiences, engage audiences, and diversify revenue. So investing in that right tech is what's going to separate people and offer that opportunity to keep thriving in an incredibly competitive space. Thank you very much.